Hello again and welcome back. My name's Annie and this is my creative detour. Today I'm jumping on and I'm doing my next circles inspired make. Now in the last video I did some wrap and stack circles, and they are pockets and they're designed to glue on a page, and there's a pocket in them. You can see here this one's got a pocket here and a pocket here, and you glue it on the page and it's a pocket here. And we've got a bird one here and it's got a pocket here and a pocket here, and when you glue it on the page it has a pocket here. Now let me show you those on the page because some of you may not have seen them. So we'll pull out a page and you can see that the top circle is a tab, and if you glue it on here then it becomes a pocket, and it's double-sided. Now I'd like to say a big hello to my new subscribers that found my channel because of my last video, my wrap and stack video. So welcome to you all. Thank you so much for watching my video and for subscribing and joining our community. I hope you really enjoy being here and enjoy having a little bit of a look at some of my other videos and chatting to all the people in the community. So thank you for doing that. I did have some feedback and quite a few of you said that you would use a paperclip. Now I almost did one of these in the previous video as a paperclip, but I also tried a few other things when I was making these and thought, oh, I'll do a second video with a paperclip and I'll also turn it into flowers. Now for some of you, you will have seen a video last year sometime where I made happy scraps. And you can see here I've got a whole heap of happy scraps made out of scrap pieces of paper that I've then splattered on all different types of acrylic ink and acrylic paint. And then I turned some of them into flowers, and I use these flowers. So what I then thought when I was making our first lot, I thought I'll do some flowers out of them. So let me show you one of our wrap and stack pockets, but instead of it being a pocket, it is a flower. Now the same principle, I have used a circle, but then I've drawn a flower on it and put a hidden paperclip in it and turned it into a flower with a tab. So that's what we're going to make today. It's kind of a variation on it. So you were all preempting me, which is very encouraging that we all were thinking down the same lines. But today I'll show you from start to finish how I make the wrap and stack flower tuck spots. Now these ones, once again, have a tab on it, but they have a hidden paperclip in them. So that's what we're going to do. So let's get set up and I'll give you all the measurements and we'll make one together. So you can see here I have made two. This one's got some black twine stuff on it, which we'll put that on. This one doesn't. I left it off. It still has a tab on it, and we'll put a few eyelets and charms on them all at the end and do some splatters. But let's start by picking our papers. Now I pulled out a whole lot of papers in my scrapbook collection that I haven't used, or I didn't know what I was going to do with them. And I had this collection that I bought from Craft Online, and it was really cheap, and it's just a water wash glittery paper, and it's called Refined, and it's a 12 by 12 pattern paper, one-sided. It's got a fake glitter on it. So I have used some of that. I've also used some retired Stampin' Up paper as well. I'm not sure what this one's called, but that's what we're going to use today. So the first thing is to cut our circles. Now you can see here that we've done a few different sizes. Now this one here is made starting with 6-inch paper, so that you can make these out of your 6 by 6 paper. This one is bigger, so I'll give you the dimensions of both as we're going, but we're going to make a bigger one together. So we'll start by making our largest circle, and I'll pull out my Fiskars cutter again. However, I do want to say that if you don't have a circle cutter, just use some plates and put a plate on it, trace around it, and you can have a few descending sizes and then cut them out. So you don't have to have a circle cutter to get this to happen. So the first size I'm going to use is a 7-inch circle. So I'm setting my cutter at 7-inch. So you just hold it with your non-dominant hand. You can see that with a bigger circle, it sometimes shimmies on the board. So there we go, there's our first one, and it's got a bit of a craggy edge, so I'm just going to cut that off. That'll be fine. So the next size I'm going to do is a 5.5 inch. Now, for those of you that are using metric, I will put all the dimensions in imperial and metric in the description. So then I'm doing 5.5 inches, and we'll do our next one. And I think I want to use this corner that's got a little bit of apricot on it. So hold it down, turn the cutter, and we'll snip that one out. It hasn't quite released. There we go. And then the next one I'm going to use is going to be a 3-inch. And I'm actually going to cut 4 of these ones. So I'm cutting one 7-inch, one 5.5 inch, and 4 3 inches. This is a great way for you to use up your stash of those papers that you really don't know what to do with, and you just think, what am I going to do with that? Okay, so there we go. So there's our papers that we're going to use. We're going to be putting them like this. So pick the ones that you like together out of your 4. I'm going to go for the slightly more contrasting ones, and these are going to be our backings. Now the next thing to do is to find a stamp that you can do a blob. So I have a stamp here that I can do a circle center on, and we're going to stamp the center of our 2 big circles with a blob. If you don't have a blob stamp, just draw a circle in the middle. And then I'm going to stamp the center of my 2 smaller circles with a little flower looking stamp of some sort. And I'm just using some VersaFine for that. And then grab yourself a pen. Now, probably something that is a pigment liner or permanent kind of liner. And you can see what we're going to do is we're going to fold this in half. So I need to make 6 petals on this for this to make sense. So I'm going to start by just with a pencil putting it on my mat and putting a mark top and bottom, and then I'm going to not find the quarter, but I'm going to find a mark that is 2/3 of the way. So that sort of gives me a bit of an idea of where I'm aiming for when I'm doing my sketches. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm going to go up here, wiggle around, come to about here and come back. And then I'll do it again. That other little notch, and wiggle around and get to there. And you can see that those 2 marks help me find the center line of my flower. Now you might be thinking, Annie, they're not all perfect and accurate. That's exactly what I want. I don't want it to be all accurate and perfect. I want it to be freehand, a little bit more organic and whimsical. So now that I've done that, you can see that I've got 6 petals on that. I'm going to wiggle around that again just so that it emphasizes it a bit. I'm purposely not going on the same line. Now you could do some embossing on that. I did some embossing on this one. I put some gold embossing on this one. Not sure whether you can see that or not, but I did a little bit of gold embossing. Maybe the camera will pick that up. Now you can draw your flowers however you want them. And then I'm just going to put some squiggly lines on, a bit of a squiggle. And I'll do the same to my medium-sized one. So because I've done this quite a few times, I don't really need to do the markers, but if you're feeling like you need your markers there to find the 6 segments, then go ahead and measure it and put your markers on. But I've made hundreds of these sort of flowers, so I'm okay about them not being perfect and all even. I hope you've all had a wonderful weekend. I'm so thrilled that you all loved my wrap and stack idea with the circles, and hopefully you all like this idea as well, with a bit of a modification on it. All right, we'll do the same on our 2 little ones and I'll come back to you. Okay, so I've got all of my flowers drawn. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to roughly fussy cut them out. So I'll show you on the big one. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to cut down a little bit into the petals, and then I'm purposely going to do the edges a little bit wonky. So down a little bit, not a lot, not all the way in. Well, I don't do all the way in. You can do whatever you like. You might want it to be more loose and open. I don't, because I don't want things to get stuck on the petals when I'm trying to put it into the tuck spot. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, like I said. Actually, I think they look better if they're a little bit wonky, to be honest. Okay, so now before you cut out your small ones, glue them to the other piece of paper that we had, because I want it to be a little bit more substantial in thickness so that it hides and protects the paper clip. Just glue that one down, give it a bit of backing, extra weight to it, and then cut them out. Okay, so I've got those cut out. I'm just going to put a few squiggly lines on these ones. Now, like I said, you can embellish these as much as you like. I'm just wanting them to be a quick project, but they do look nice if you put a little bit of heat embossing on them. Now, I am going to stamp a few dots onto them. So let's do that. I've just got a splatter stamp just out of my stash. And just I'm going to put a few splatters around the flowers just to show that contrast. Nice and quick. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it in half. So I'm going to get 3 petals on each side of my page, and I'll just burnish that, and I'll do the same with my medium-sized flower. And you can see that you don't actually see the center bit except for the last one. So don't worry about it having to be perfect. So now I'm going to glue them together. I'm just going to put a bead of glue on either side of my fold line of my middle-sized flower, and that's all. I'm not putting any glue anywhere else. So with the pockets, I put some glue around the bottom a little bit. I'm not doing that on this because I'm keeping it as a tuck spot. So glue that down and give it a really good burnish so that the glue bites. Now you can see that the background paper is showing a little bit. I'm not worried about that because when it goes onto the page, it won't matter. Now, if you want to ink, you can. I probably should have inked before I put it together. I could put a little bit on. I will ink the centre flowers. Yes, so like I was saying, I'm super thrilled that everybody loves the wrap and stack pockets. They were lots of fun to make, and I've ended up with so many circles because I've been playing that I now have a whole lot of ideas to do with circles, which I suppose that's pretty good. Okay, a little bit of inking if you'd like. I do want to ink this one because we've got that background paper that I want to hide. And I'm just using Distress ink, and I'm using Victorian Velvet. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to put on our paperclip. So put your paperclip on. I've got a 50mm paperclip. And I'm going to put on a little bit of black thread or fibre. So what I've got is some, it's kind of plasticky, and I think they use it for round flowers, and it's just a artificial fibre. I'm just pulling out some fibres, and I'm going to wind them up and make some loops. Like that, and I'm going to slide that all the way under my paperclip and position it how I want it. We can always cut some off if we've got too many. It looks a bit of a mess at the moment, but it'll look okay once we've got our flower on, and I'll do that on the other side. Okay, so we've got some fibres on. Now we're going to glue on our flowers. So put a decent amount of glue on the back of your flower and hang a little piece over the side so you've got a tab, but you definitely want to make sure you're covering your paperclip. Then put your other one on, and you can see now why I did the same pattern paper as the backing, because sometimes your flower doesn't perfectly align and you see little glimpses of the back flower. So if it's the same pattern paper, well then it doesn't really matter. So give it a good squeeze. You can see that I've got a little bit overhanging there. I'm going to pull that back a bit. Give it a really good squeeze. And doubling up that pattern paper is really worthwhile because it means that you don't see the shape of the paperclip. On the first one that I made, you can sort of see the shape of the, I'm not sure whether the camera will pick it up, but you can kind of see the shape of the paperclip. And it's got an imprint in it, which I don't really like. So doubling it up does a couple of things. It means that you don't see the imprint as much of the paperclip, but it also hides any overhang of your cut flower. Okay, let's put some eyelets on these now. So I'm going to punch holes in them, and I'm going to just put an eyelet in it. So we'll do them all together. And I've got some gold eyelets. And then I have just a little leaf charm. I don't really have any flower charms, but I've got a little leaf charm that I'm just going to put onto a ball pin and pin it onto my flower. There we go, that looks cute. Okay, let's have a look at them in our journal. So let's have a little look at the ones that I made off camera first. So you can see that you open them up, you slide them on, and because of the paperclip, they stay in place. And they're a tuck spot. They're not a pocket. So you can see that you can tuck something into only 2 spots. You can't tuck something into the top one, but you can tuck something into the other 2. Let's put another one on. So there's the one we made together. And once again, see, it's a tuck spot and 2 tuck spots and then 1 decorative tab. And then the last one that I made off camera, it's slightly smaller. So there we go. There's our wrap and stack flower tuck spots. I hope you have a little play with them as well and have lots of fun with them, using up some of your scrapbook paper that you don't know what to do with because, you know, it's not something that you would necessarily use, but as flowers, the paper might look fantastic. So thank you again for watching the video, and thank you so much for the overwhelming support on the previous video. I really appreciate it. So have a play with this one. It's a bit of a variation on it, but lots of fun and using up your stash or your scraps, and great to go in your junk journals. All right, that's all from me today. I'll leave all of the dimensions, or even with the smaller one, in the description if you're wanting to know the sizes of the circles. Have a great week, everybody, and I hope you find some time to make something fun and new. Ooh, like these. And I will see you again on Thursday with another project. Bye for now.